We'll get started with our discussion items. The first being a municipal election update. Mr. Terry Graham, the interim director of elections for Richland County.
Good afternoon. My name's Terry Graham. I'm the interim director of election and registration. We all know we have election coming up November the 5th. Absentee will open up Monday at 8:30 to 5, October the 7th. We will be open this Saturday. Won't be open for absentee, but we will be open for anybody that's not registered to come out to the office from 9 to 1 to get registered. And we also, I brought two of my staff members, Jesse Henson and Barry Wells. They're going to give you a small demonstration on the new voting system that we have, the express vote, and also the DES 200, which is this printer. And without no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jesse, and he's going to show you guys the new voting system.
All right. This is South Carolina's new express vote voting system. It is made by the vendor ES&S, that's Election Systems and Software. It does, yes. I'll turn this so everyone can see it. This is the express vote itself. It is called a ballot marking device. It's the same principle as the old machines, the old Ivotronics. It is a touchscreen device that will allow you to mark your ballot. At the precinct, you will be given a ballot card, blank ballot card.
His name's Terry, it's not Chad.
The card, the voter will take it and insert it into the slot. The ballot will come up. So I'm just going to...
Ed, you got another vote.
Right.
Any more cards?
Yes, actually.
How many would you like? Oh, Lordy.
All right, so once you review the selections on your ballot, you'll hit print card. And it will give you your card back with your selections marked on the card, both in readable letters and in barcode.
Let me see that.
So it's done electronically.
Yes.
Is it storing that data?
Yes.
May I see it, sir? So it's storing the data.
This machine stores no data.
It doesn't.
Right. You take that card, and in a minute we'll run it through here. And this DS200 is actually where all of the vote data is stored.
And has your name on top that you voted?
No.
Ah,
Ballots are still anonymous.
okay. I
But
feel a
it's
little better.
quicker.
Quicker in a way, yes. It's also more secure because we have a paper trail for audits now. Whereas before with the Ivotronics, it was all digital.
So the paper has to get to this next step, though, for the
Yes.
vote to be counted.
At this point, that ballot has not been cast. That ballot has been marked. So it's the same as bubbling in a paper ballot. Right now, you've just bubbled in that paper ballot.
Maybe I'm jumping
So
ahead.
what's the chain of custody of the piece of paper to get to there?
It will go from our poll workers to the voter through this machine. The voter will take it out of this machine once it has been printed and come over to this scanner.
The voter will, him or
Yes.
herself.
So what prevents me from making 2,000 copies of that sheet right there? Is there a barcode on there that identifies it as me as the voter, or is it doesn't? So how do you prevent fraud?
Those barcodes identify ballot style and the selections made.
But what if you want all the selections to be the same?
That would really go to our precinct coordinator, but I believe we are having provisional plans made for people who try and enter a precinct with the ballot already marked.
Yeah.
What does it say? No Badura. I'm just trying to figure this out. Head start.
Levity. So to summarize this, the insert card that the precinct workers would put in the machine, because it'll tell you what precinct or what you can vote for or what you can't, basically replaced by this piece of paper, or not?
Yes.
Ah,
The
And this
PEB
piece
is
of-
the little brick that they
Right,
had that they put in the
right.
machine has been replaced with this card.
so who keeps this paper?
The poll workers will have it at the sign-in table.
No, after I cast my vote.
Oh, after you cast it, it goes into a blue bin down here in the bottom
Oh.
that will lock at the end of the night and come back to us to be stored at our office. Yeah.
But, so, all right, so
I'll say it as many times as I want.
so after I cast my vote, that piece of paper goes into the blue cart.
To the recycling bin.
So you'll have, the paper is back up.
Yes.
Once you cast it electronically, you're done,
We will have every one of these cards
right?
at the end of the day.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of paper.
I'm just
what I'm
trying to
saying.
understand how you keep the voter, I know it'll be lines or whatever, but when you get there, voters will understand that this is the process, and you have to put that piece of paper in there before you leave.
We'll be putting signs everywhere that say, take this through this,
Oh, no.
And talk about the role of the poll
as
workers.
long as they read.
What role will the poll workers play?
As far as the role of the poll workers goes, this card is the same as the PEB, which, for those of you who actually voted in person or an absentee in person, the poll worker had a little plastic block that they would stick in the side of the machine, and it would pull up the ballot selection. That PEB has effectively been replaced by this card. As soon as you put this card in the express vote, that ballot selection screen will come up, and they'll select your ballot for you.
So the barcode has my name on it, or the voters?
No.
No names.
So is this a,
Barcode is the ballot style, and then all the selections that have been made.
so is this a generic for everybody that comes to
Yes,
precinct?
This is an anonymous ballot.
When you come to the polls, everybody get just a blank piece of paper.
Okay,
The only point that they know you voted is that you sign in like you used to. That's your only
Poll,
point.
the concept of the poll has not changed.
The-
You come to the precinct, you show your ID, you come to the poll table, they check your name. Once they verify that you are who you say you are, you take that piece of paper they give you.
Run it
and you
through
take
this.
You come to the express vote, you slide it in there, and then you make your selection. Then you, when that paper come back out with your ballot marking is here, then you take that paper to here, and then you slide it through. Then your ballot had been cast at that time.
so that's a barcode reader.
That's a ball.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
This is a barcode generator,
Exactly.
right?
Yes,
So
sir.
if somebody made a mistake and said, oh, I didn't mean to vote for Howard,
If they make a mistake, they get one other option. They don't stay there all day and say, well, I made a mistake. You get one other choice. You get two choices. The first time you put it in, you made a mistake. Okay, I didn't mean to vote for such and such. So we get them another blank piece of paper. They go to the machine again and they vote, and then they take that second one and they'll take it to the DS200 and the printer and put their ballot in.
what happens to the mistaken ballot?
This one will be marked as foil. The first one will be marked as foil, and it'll be put in another blue bin separate from this one, and it'll be marked as foil, and it'll go into, but they all being accounted for, because when they go to the poll, we already know how many we send to the polls and how many are supposed to come back from the poll.
So now, to verify the totals from a particular precinct, your, I want to say Chad, but your card there should coordinate, total numbers should coordinate with the total signees.
Poll list, correct. Correct.
You still gotta check in before you can get to the express vote. So, I mean, there's not a way to bypass.
have we done education, reach out or education center for people to understand what to do?
Well, the state election, currently they got a band going around different places, different events, to let people know this is how you vote.
I haven't seen one.
I don't know where he went to. Like I said, I don't work in
y'all
the
seen
state
one?
election, but
I think it's gonna be confusing at first. I mean, it's gonna be, it's pretty I think people are gonna, they just need to realize that's not casting their ballot. And they're gonna see express vote, and they're just not gonna think. So
They're
it's
not gonna
just gonna be a
think that it's
matter
gonna
of,
They're gonna get this and think it's a receipt.
right.
Now, let me ask.
But
you.
after that, it should make things move pretty smoothly.
That's why you
Once
need
figure
an
it out.
education seminars or lessons or class, or
So are we doing it,
LTX maybe will be able to help you spread the word.
so are we doing that with the, are we doing, are we doing that with each precinct? Education. Educating
They
the,
haven't done that yet.
you hadn't done that yet.
in our defense, we just got these new equipment.
And you testing them on us?
Well, this is the first election. Everybody across the state, this is the first election, municipal election, that we use
Hey,
this new
it
system.
just give you a way to
Let me
protest. if you're not happy
ask
with
another
the
quality
result.
quality control question.
Yes, sir.
If, if you check, if I meet you at the door, you're an official, how do you know that I submitted my form to that box and I'm not walking out with it in my hand?
Are you going from the poll check-in table, then clerk,
To
the
this.
poll worker gonna take you from the check-in table
To the express.
to the express vote. Then from the express vote, someone taking you to the printer, the DS-200, and from there, once you has cast your ballot, they're watching you go out the door without your ballot.
I don't get a sticker or whatever.
Yeah, you
verifying
get
that
our voter sticker. Like I said, nothing changed. The only thing changed about our voting process is the new equipment. Everything else, the process is still the same.
If I walk out of that door and I'm passing you, you're the last point of control, and I don't have a sticker, do you question that, or does it matter?
Well, at that point, it doesn't matter that you don't have a sticker, because everybody don't want a sticker. I mean, people, even with the Albertronic, people didn't want a sticker, but we still know that person had cast their ballot.
My only concern is this hasn't been communicated with the public, and we're only a month away.
True. I agree.
That's not good. I mean, that's not really good at all, because, and the other concern is with senior citizens and whoever, that who used to one system. This is a completely different system.
Is there a possibility to, in my world and yours too, you always try to, give people information and not probably more than 3 points. And it sounds like there's about 3 steps here, if you kind of not dumb it down. I don't want to use that terminology, but between now and then, being that we're the first, would there be the possibility of some type of just like a, I don't know, quarter sheet of paper, and it's like 1, 2, 3, so people start knowing, when I get there, I got to make sure I've done these 3 things. And the last thing being I've cast my ballot. Because the only thing that's, I guess, giving everyone concern, being that it's new, and I think people will get it after they do it the first time, but it is the first time, is making sure people go through every single step, right? So it seems like we need to do something to start pushing that. There's 3 things you gotta do. 3 steps, or what, or however many steps, but something that's gonna make it be that when you get there, that you
Get it
gotta
out
go
on-
through.
On social media and
Yeah.
everywhere else,
You need-
a little
you need- do you have
15-second
posters?
video.
I mean, something
Is it
really,
mailers?
something
Where's Miss
simple.
Houston? You need to be making a video.
The state are coming up with,
Yeah, I see them over
I
there,
can't
but
wait for the state, man. We only have 5 weeks.
well, the state rolled it out, so we have to go on the direction of the state. I mean, it's not like we're doing this on our own. It's stuff that, these,
So, we went over last week and met with Mr. Graham and his staff, and we tested the machines, and I asked that he come and make this presentation to City Council. I believe that we can reach out to the State Election Commission and see what marketing materials they have, and then we would work together to push that out to our voters.
And I agree with you, but what I'm saying is,
You're
this
talking
is
about
our
the time.
first city
You're talking
election,
about
and it's the
time.
first election with these machines. And until, I haven't heard there's a new system. I mean, we heard new machines, but nobody told us it's a whole new process. We need to reach out and educate the public, especially our city voters.
I think we can do that based on the issues we've experienced in the past. I think this brings us a whole lot, it's just a whole lot of improvements that have been made to the overall process. And I don't want that to get lost. So I think with the new changes, we can let voters know. And I think what we're missing is that you'll still have maybe even more clerks and workers at the polling location to help voters work through the voting process. So they're not just walking in the precinct and having to figure it out on their own. They're gonna be walked through each step of the process.
That's the key right there. That's the key.
To your question, your point, is the state going to be participating in the PR on this?
They are. I don't know what they're going to do. Now, I do have a presentation that we're going to do at Benedict. If we're not invited to somewhere, some forum to come and do a presentation, I mean, I'm not going to just show up, ask my staff to just show up to somewhere we're not invited to. I mean, if you have a forum that you guys want us to come back and you're inviting the public, we'd be more than happy to come back before the election time. Even though we're busy, but we still got to test our election, we still got to do absentee, we still got to prepare for the polls. So, you know, if it's something that you guys want us to do, give us advance notice. We'll come and we'll come out and we'll do a demonstration to the public.
I think the Columbia Council of Neighborhoods would probably be a good avenue. I know Ms. Utzi's, our Public and Media Relations Director, can work with you all. She may have some suggestions right now. But I just personally, just knowing how people are, and I'm sensing the concern of the council, what is going to be key is having information ahead of time, but
Right,
also
too.
that day of election day, if in fact, when we say more poll workers, I don't know what that means in the context of what was before and what is now, but it really does need to be that, because once you get, I mean, we can sit here in an ideal world, say what's going to happen, but till you're there on that day and you got people going and coming and doing and whatever.
Well, I'll take all your concerns back.
Yeah, I mean, you
Say
really,
next.
you really literally have to
I'll
have,
be y'all
yeah,
moderators. I'll make
because
sure
you have elderly people, you have, I mean, they'll be here and they think they've done what they're supposed to do, then they'll go wander somewhere. I mean, it just happens that way all the time with everything. So,
On that
Well,
topic of
because-
poll workers, I don't remember for sure, this was a few weeks ago, right as we were getting busy with these. I believe our precinct coordinator was talking about having a poll worker to stand by this machine and go bring your card over here and scan.
Every single machine, because in my
By
precinct
the
there is
scanner.
8.
But this machine
The
here-
precinct, you'll have 8 of those,
Only have one.
and 1 or 2 of these.
It'll be by the door as you exit, so you can't exit without passing this machine.
But that's what I'm saying. It's a lot, what I'm saying is, number one, it's too many steps. Number two, you really have to watch every single piece of paper going in and make sure it doesn't leave. So if you miss 1 or 2, you could decide an election,
That only happens in Florence.
or Florida.
Have
you seen this thing?
One
vote.
Florence was one vote.
Yeah, one vote.
Him or something putting on channel 2.
Yeah, that'd be
Still having
great.
it, yeah.
So we'll
I
mean,
Him or something just having step walk through and put it
Yeah,
on channel
that'd
2.
be
the most important,
Something we can-
you are essentially looking at 3 steps. Sign in,
Like you always do.
do that first step at the table, express, scan your ballot. Now, the issue is, you've got a lot of constituents who are coming to the poll and are used to the regular voting procedure. You mash your button, you vote yes, and it's done. We got a 3-step process now. And I think the more publicity we can get out into the city relative to what are the 3 simple steps to vote, I think that makes it easier for our folk, that makes it easier for senior citizens, because a great number of senior citizens are going to come and they're going to look at 2 machines and say, good grief, something's wrong here. I'm used to the regular machine. So I think the PR piece has a lot to do, because it's very simple, but we can make this thing very confusing for some folk, and we don't want that to happen. It seems like, let me ask you this, Rob. Once you put your ballot in, when voting is over, how long does it take to scan the machines for,
Let me show you.
all right,
So, you take your voter ballot, and it just runs through here.
there's an error of Chad.
It's a Chad.
Oh.
It's a Chad.
Too many people have it.
We may have done, touched that barcode too.
LTX, you watching this?
Of course, the one we brought with
I've been going through this already.
us. The one machine we brought with us decided not to do two of the barcodes correctly.
I got you.
We need a one sheet or a card to
So
put the water bill,
let me ask you, since this,
if we have.
does it make any difference if you touch that barcode?
These are printed on thermal paper,
So nothing leaks?
so as long as you don't mark through the barcode, it'll still read.
Good dude.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, there we go. So, properly marked card
Bureaucracy world.
comes into the scanner here.
Well, that's true.
Machine says, thanks for voting. The card is dropped into a blue box down here.
Oh, you don't even get the card?
No.
Gotcha, okay.
So this blue box down here will come out at the end of the night. And it's got a handle. The top will lock, and this will come back to our office with all the cards in it. There is also, under this flap here, a USB stick where all of the data is stored digitally. It actually stores an image of every ballot that's run through this machine.
So, and that cures it from, I mean, that makes it, you've got the ballots here.
Yeah.
And
We
you
will
got,
have
and you
a
got
digital
digital
trail.
material.
Yep, we'll have a digital trail and a full paper trail.
And where's the counting done?
Yeah.
Is it counted as it goes along?
Yes,
So
this
the-
machine will actually keep track
At 7
of
o'clock, you know?
how many ballots are run through it. It displays the public count right here.
Doesn't tell you the ketchup or the mustard wins?
The totals tape will. The same as with the old system, they will have a zero tape and a totals tape printed at the beginning and end of the day respectively that will be posted on the door. And one will come back to us, and it looks pretty much exactly the same as the old ones did.
So you can't tally up in the middle of the day, you always have to zero out the machine at the end of the night.
Right. It will not keep running totals throughout the day.
Terry?
Yes, sir.
There's a technical situation I'd like you to take care of since you're the interim director.
Yes, sir.
There are 2 parking spaces right in front of the door to the elections office that are reserved for the deputy sheriff.
Right.
In previous years, Leon has let us put notices on those available for voting. Would you take
Like
care?
curbside,
Yeah,
Curbside.
not curbside, just parking.
just parking,
Yeah.
just for somebody to just get out and just walk
To
in.
have two extra-
Curbside, no, he's talking about voting. Curbside makes more sense.
Yeah,
I mean,
curbside. Okay, we have already made arrangement with Erica. We're gonna have 4 parking meters gonna be reserved for curbside, so they don't have to worry about pulling up front and, because we still got business as usual at the Richland County building. So if we got those curbside on the street, then we don't have to worry about it because it's already designated for curbside. So now we just, people just come park.
You gonna take the 2 deputies?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll let my deputy.
Let Leon know
Thank
that
you,
you took his.
thank you for the presentation and the specifics. Just briefly, can you kind of summarize this kind of
policy reasons for the change? I mean, so were we focused on?
Policy reason for the change in the voting system?
Yeah, I mean, is it an update? I mean, is it election integrity? Is it efficiency? I mean, what's the
Integrity,
role?
efficiency, and plus for years, the voters always want a paper trail. They didn't have that in the old voting system. So with the new voting system, they got a paper trail. They wanted something they can have in their hand and say that my vote was cast. So now they have that. So it was something that the state had been wanting for years, but delegation wouldn't give us the funding. So this year, the delegation gave us the funding, so we thought it was a perfect opportunity to go get a new voting system.
How many places have used the system so far in
This
South
one?
Carolina?
Well, I think North Carolina just got approved
I
for
mean,
those
in
systems.
our South Carolina,
All
we're the
out.
first?
All 46 counties.
Everybody has them right now?
Yep, all 46 counties have it.
I believe we were the last county.
Yeah, we was the last. See, that's why it wasn't a whole lot of presentation, because we were supposed to get our system the first part of September, and then when Hurricane Dorian came through, so it threw us back a week and a half. So we just got our system last week and just did the acceptance test on it and got it approved for us to use them. So that's why we just now trying to roll out stuff and make sure the public is aware that we do have a new system.
Well, in addition to, obviously, the idea to be on Channel 2, can we make sure we connect them with CCN? And I think I don't think we're going to have the organic requests come, because a lot of people just don't know. So we may need to make that request on behalf of them, on behalf of the neighborhood presence, and get out to as many organizations as possible.
Right.
6 got a debate on 20,
I think particularly thinking about
24.
some of the senior facilities in the city.
that'd be a good place to do it, man.
They confirm that?
I'm sure
In
you
Eau Claire.
you want them at Greenview Park. I mean, you want them at the Finley
I think you
House. You want them-
Places
I mean,
like
just
that.
Some places
where
that
you
make
can
sense. We got some critical mass of
probably do
people
it in
too.
custom.
You're not gonna present just 2 people, which is fine. But if you got, dozens, and literally some of these places, hundreds of people, it's worth walking through it, particularly some of our seniors.
And also, at that time, they would have an opportunity to come up and
Try it out.
do, we got a fun election, so all they have to do is come, touch the screen, take it to the scanner, they can get their little practices and get their hands on and actually do it themselves. Where we are today, you guys, we just doing a demonstration. On that day, they can come and test and touch themselves.
Maybe on the 15th before the council meeting downstairs, if y'all are available, we could set you up down there. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
well, we'll work with you.
The 15th, well, yeah, the 15th was bad, we're going to
Okay.
New York on that day.
That's another evening council meeting, and I was just thinking we could set them up or something for people to play with before the meeting started. But we'll figure it out.
I think you need to get the media involved with y'all and do the 3 steps one by one, right?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you guys for your time.
Good to see you.
Take care, good to see you. Okay, our next discussion item is the model business license ordinance. Ms. Melissa Harrell is with the Municipal Association of South Carolina, and she is the research and legislative liaison. Hey, Melissa.
All right.
Good afternoon. I don't have anything exciting to show and tell, I'm afraid.
We can make it excited, go ahead.
I have no doubt. It's a little intimidating speaking before my former boss here.
He's all right. He's all right.
All right, what I'd like to do is draw your attention. I put some things in front of you. And my shortness is making this microphone challenging. A couple things I'm going to draw your attention to several of these things as I go along. And what I was asked to do was kind of start at the beginning, since y'all are not on what we call the model business license ordinance. To kind of explain to you what the ordinance is, let me start there. Back in the early 70s, 2 gentlemen, a CPA and an attorney created the two components that make up the model ordinance. And if you'll, in your packet, I have a copy of the blank model ordinance, which lives on our website and is available to all cities and towns in South Carolina. And we have recently made a number of updates to this ordinance. But anyway, back in the early 70s, these two gentlemen created this, and it was given to the association upon their retirement back in 2007. And unfortunately, I was walking down the hall, and Howard looked at me and said, "You're new here, and you have an MBA. You understand how math works, don't you?" Yes, sir. Next thing I know, I've inherited doing the model ordinance ever since. So this ordinance has been tested by the Supreme Court not once, but 3 different times, and it has been upheld as being a fair and rational methodology. What I mean by that is nothing more than like businesses are treated the same. So if you have a grocery store here and a grocery store there, they are treated just the same, regardless of their size, okay? The second thing is, remember I said that there are, let me back up, I apologize. There are 3 parts to a model ordinance. You have the local legislation, which is the model ordinance. It's the how you do the things that you do. Then you have the rate schedule. That's nothing more than what you charge, the tax rate that you charge. And then the true meat and potatoes of that whole package is the class schedule. And that class schedule is what takes it is the piece that makes it challenging for you, because not only do you have to adopt the model ordinance, but then you have to make a commitment to stay current with that class schedule, meaning you just can't adopt it and then forget about it and then 20, 30 years come back to it. This has to be a living, breathing piece of the ordinance that has to be addressed every 2 to 5 years and update it. And you're saying, Melissa, why in the heck do I need to do that and worry about all of that? Well, the reason is because that class schedule is what keeps it a fair and equitable methodology as described by the Supreme Court. So what that means is if the class schedule is divided up into 7 classes. Classes 1 through 7 there is no art to this. This is completely science. It's completely math. It is based off of IRS statistics of profitability. So if anybody comes in here and tells you you're treating people inequitably or however, if you're on the model ordinance using the class schedule and you're updating that class schedule, you are treating everybody equally and fairly because you are up to date with the profitability by industry. Now, I know this is boring and a lot of detail, but I want to make sure to at least throw enough out at you so that when your staff comes back, you'll hear it again and it makes sense. This very overwhelming looking book, we call this the NAICS book. This is what all national statistics from businesses, it all comes from this classification system. It's a 6-digit code, and I'm not going to get into it, but trust me, if you'd like an education, I can bore you to death on this. But it's a very clean and neat way to do your organization of statistics. So every single business in the entire country has a number. That number goes on your tax return. It is no secret. There is no magic. This book is nothing more than 3 different ways to find out what number is appropriate to your business. Okay? So we take the statistics from the IRS that are based off of these classification numbers and take their income data, figure out the profit margins, put them into classes 1 through 7. Neat, clean science, math. Nothing art here. So that means your big box stores, which typically have a high gross, have a low profit margin. Grocery stores, convenience stores, those kinds of folks have very small profit margins. The biggest profit margin, believe it or not, is mini storage. So one day when I retire, gosh darn it, I'm going to buy me a mini storage place and run that. So that's the model ordinance in a nutshell. Let me make sure all right, the one thing I didn't say is that we have an 8th class. This 8th class is a catch-all class There are a number of businesses that are statutorily carved out or for various and sundry reasons need to be addressed in a different manner. Those are in your Class 8s. Those are usually unique to the city or to the area in which the city resides. So, any questions on those two pieces? Also, in your packet, you will find what I call the meat and potatoes, this class schedule. I know it looks overwhelming and it looks like total Greek to you now, but I can assure you, your business license staff understands this and gets this, and it's easily done. The reason why it is so imperative that you either go towards this model or find a methodology that you can defend is it takes off any kind of legal liability off of your head. So remember I said that it has been tested by the Supreme Court. Those cases were brought up, and each one obviously is very different, but it's based off of an unfairness argument in some form or fashion. And as long as you have the math and the data behind you, it takes off any liability off of your shoulders as a counsel. And remember I said that living, breathing class schedule has got to be updated, and here's a reason why. You have an ebb and flow of businesses. My guess is today you're not going to go out and buy a horse and buggy anymore, or the whips that go with it. So at one time there might have been a big business in that, but today they wouldn't be. Same thing with doctors. Doctors at one point were in a Class 7. Today they would not be in a Class 7 because most of those doctors' facilities, one or either, this is a whole nother avenue that I know you're going into, have been bought out by the hospitals, or their business is on a contractual basis now. So almost all of the payments are done through insurance contracts, Medicaid or Medicare. So that's number one, the model ordinance and your legal liability there. The second one is a political reality that we all have to accept. And please forgive me, I hold two roles is what I'm trying to say, at the association. I do all of the research for our legislative initiatives, and I also lobby on your behalf in all cities and towns for anything that is tax law related. So when I wear the second hat, it gives me the advantage to be able to go in and fight on your behalf to legislators, because I hopefully understand what's behind these initiatives as far as the reason and the facts. So when we get this very scary bill, which is also in your packet, is House Bill 4431. And as you can see, we have several of our House members in this area who are sponsoring this bill. And I cannot attest to their reasons for their sponsorship, but I'm sure they feel very strongly for signing on to this bill. But this bill is a very frightening bill to cities and towns for multiple reasons. And I'm not going to go into that bill, but what I wanted to show you is there is extreme political pressure at the State House for several reasons. One of which, it's an election year. Number two, the two largest local government payments by businesses are either business license tax, not either, but they are business license tax and property tax. And the legislature has not found a way to get to the property tax payments and controlling that other than what happened through Act 388. So a way to assist businesses in lowering their local government liability is business license tax. And this is an easy one for them to control because it doesn't cost them anything. It costs you in your budgets. So remember that piece.
Talk about the bill, Melissa.
I'm sorry?
Talk about the bill.
Well, the bill was just dropped at the end of the year, so it has not had any hearings, or we haven't gotten to that point. But it is a very frightening bill on several reasons. One of which is, one of the reasons I'm here today is to, I guess, implore you to go towards the standardization initiative that the association has been pushing. And while I know it sounds like I'm jumping, I promise you I'm not, Mayor. This little rat card that's also in your packet is what we have produced for the cities and for the legislature and for anybody else that needs to understand and be educated on the business license tax in itself. So one of the biggest issues for businesses, which we concur, and this is a big piece in the bill, is the standardization piece. It is hard for businesses that go across multiple jurisdictional lines with different due dates, different 12 months for their gross income to be calculated. They have different forms, different definitions of gross income. All of this makes it very complicated when you're a small business or even a large business. So imagine if we could do some of these things to make us more business friendly across all of our cities and towns and counties. And by the way, 9 counties in South Carolina charge a business license tax. So standard due date, all of it, standard form, the model ordinance, having your class schedule and the definition of gross income being consistent among all of our cities and towns is one of the tenets of this bill. But there are also some very negative things in this bill. One of which, it transfers all authority to the Secretary of State of South Carolina and takes it away from you. You would not be able to do any sign. They would centralize a portal and they would run the class schedule. Instead of it being a voluntary thing for you, they would control it. They also would treat transportation folks in and out of the city differently. They would they would carve these whole folks out and have a different methodology. But another one of the biggest problems in this bill is their switch from gross to net. They don't actually say it in the bill, but they say it through their definitions. And when you, right now, state law says gross income is how you measure and start the calculation of the tax. And when you say net income, you say, okay, well, that makes sense. That's how you do your tax return. Okay, I'm cool with that. Well, then I want you to go to your folks on the front lines that actually administer the business license tax and explain and get them to explain to you what a disaster that is. Not necessarily for the city, but for the businesses themselves. Because how many different ways can you file as a business? There isn't just one form that all businesses fill out, and there are different types of businesses between an S corp, a sole proprietor. You could have a partnership, you could have an LLC. There are lots of different ways to file your tax return.
And net to everybody is a whole different number. You can make your net be zero all day long.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll pay you later. You will hit it right on the money. And when you go down that road, not only do you, let me finish one point about the net and the gross. If you have a really good accountant, you're going to be as low a net as you can possibly be. So if you have the resources to have a really good accountant, then you're going to be in a better position than a small business that may not have as many resources or have as much of an education. Number one. Number two, your front lines folks are going to have to request a number of documents because you want to treat like businesses. The whole purpose that this model and this kind of methodology works is you're treating like businesses the same. So to do that, you're going to have to take lots of different forms. It's not going to be one page of a tax return that your folks are going to look at. They're going to have to look at multiple forms and add and subtract to make apples and apples and to make it fair.
Sure.
But think of all those people that zero out. And if the folks that are behind this bill say really mean what they say they want you to remain revenue neutral and still be able to raise the same amount of revenue. All right, so if you go down to net and you're not doing it on gross anymore, that means your rates are going to have to go way up, right? So what happens to all those small businesses that were paying based on their volume of the business? Now you've switched it to those that have a good, successful structure to go down to zero, or really good accountants, or they have formed their business that way that will show a zero net. So then you've turned everything upside down and once again created inequities. So you may have, instead of a base rate of $100 or $50 on your first $2,000, you may have $1,000 or $2,000 just to be able to, I'm just throwing numbers out there, I understand. Sure. But just, that gives you a concept of you're not making it based off of somebody's true ability to make a profit, because if they're looking at the profitability, it's already embedded in the model. You've already taken care of the profitability component.
That's very helpful, and we've been talking about adopting the model business ordinance for a while, and I think our numbers show that we're generally going to be maybe revenue neutral, but just in the interest of transparency, there will be some winners and losers, I understand. What are you hearing?
Without question.
What are you hearing from other communities as to which particular NAICS codes might be most affected?
It depends on if you, like Greenville is like you, they are not on the model, and I'm working with them right now to see whether or not they can handle the losers. Law firms sometimes fall in this situation. They are a class 7 in the current profitability statistics. If you have them in a much lower, you're going to have to handle that. Doctors, a lot of folks are charging them a lot, so they'll come down. And then you have the whole dynamic of what you're addressing now with the new way the medical industry is organizing. So until I look at your data in particular, Mayor, I can't answer your question unilaterally, because every city is different, because they are on a different year they came into the model, or they have never been on the model.
Super. Okay, thank you. Any other questions from you?
I know you can't, really can't answer it, but in terms of the losers,
Yes, sir.
what are a few more examples of the losers that come out of this?
Until
By
I
classification.
Yes, sir. You are unique. Your current model is on a different methodology. So until I take your data, which I have your data now, and I will get there, but I'm not there today. I didn't get it in time to be able to give you your winners and losers. But your staff will be well briefed on that in the next few weeks.
But you have to remember too, that for every loser, there's a winner.
Right.
So until we get a fair table based on the IRS profitability, then we're treating some people, is it an equal number, about an equal number of people that'll win and lose?
It depends.
A lot of people have paid less business license, a lot of people pay more, but I think it balances out.
Typically, you have in your kind of situation, you have a lot more winners than you do losers, but the degree of the loser is more intense than the degree of the winner.
Especially if you make it revenue neutral. If you make it revenue neutral and you come out with the same amount of revenue, there are going to be a lot of people that will be paying less, some people will be paying more.
And I mean, there is no other way to do it. I mean, when you're going from one completely different methodology to another.
But you're coming up with a legally justifiable situation that can be defended and has been defended in court. By the way, the two people that she was talking about, G.C. Robinette and Roy Bates.
Well, I know you can't give examples, and I'm just curious into if it's revenue balance, whether you lose, some businesses will pay less, some businesses will pay more.
Yes, sir.
Give me a category, because obviously
I can't until I dig into your data.
not one single office. You can't even do like a.
Well, because you're completely different. I could do it on other cities that have the old version of the model, but you don't have anywhere near the version.
So on the license class schedule that you have listed here, and it's basically you've got a class of different numbers that's assigned with different category, or maybe an average profit, what'd you call it, profit?
It was a profit.
Based on profitability.
It's a based on profitability, but it's an industry-wide profit margin. Yes, sir.
So if somebody, I guess that's why you're talking about some of them you'll be winners, some of them will be losers, because you're following this class.
And also, the court has upheld that things have to be done equally among all businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, you have different declining rates and different levels where the base rate applies. So those kinds of things will change the winners and losers dynamic as well.
So we've got a little bit more to do, on this.
Any other questions, Melissa?
What,
I'm sorry, you have more to do. Got to keep going.
I have more to do for you, yes, sir. But you have the heavy lifting to do. I'm not even suggesting that my version of the work is your work. Because politically, it's going to be unpleasant for some, but very happy for many. Let's not negate how many people end up doing well.
It was just important, that's been part of our discussion, just want to be fully transparent, that this is not going to be a fun process for probably for anyone.
No, sir, and it will be more painful for those that have never been on the version of the model before.
Sure.
Now, with this model, would the small business get any break at all?
They will be treated equally within their industry. So all restaurants will be treated the same, all shoe stores will be treated the same, all lawn care folks will be treated the same. So, and it will be based off of their gross.
Teresa, I'm sorry, Mr. Davis.
Just to, I guess it's one of the classifications on it, it's on here, and I just happened to had to respond to some questions this morning on it by call. So, classification, we're saying right now, well, the model that you basically may come up with includes religious organizations, nonprofits. Can you mix that now?
No,
You won't be
I
mixing.
will give you, if you choose to include them,
It would be a municipal
that is a
choice.
local decision.
Right,
Yes, sir.
okay.
That is not my decision.
We won't be there yet when you complete what you're doing.
Please, no, sir, don't put that on me.
All right, thank you.
The only thing I will add, if you don't mind, Mayor, is the political reality that we are all facing. And the more of these standardization components you can adopt, the more wind we take out of the argument that it needs to be done to us. Let us do it. Let us clean our own house the way it needs to be cleaned and the way we know how to best, not to be told how to do it.
It's interesting, the state caps railroads, so we only get a couple $1,000s, but yet they want to come and control the other. I mean, it's very interesting dynamics. Probably a good idea for everybody to kind of look at their own
It's
law
not
first.
taking away their revenue. You look at just about everything.
Well, but at the end of the day, what they're doing is that by generally you're affecting the same constituencies, and that's what I think the message is lost.
Every year by every year by proviso, they steal local government funds, omnibus funds go to the state for years and come back and a fraction thereof, so.
No
There's
newcomers
nothing
to the
new.
game.
We do need to register, Teresa, our displeasure with H 4431, with the delegation
Displeasure?
and with all the sponsors.
And may I add one more displeasure?
Please.
In your packet, you also have a copy of a proviso that was passed in this past year's budget that is also worrisome. This Thursday morning, the committee has been formed to study, and I'm going to use air quotes, which I do not like when people do this because I don't quite know what the study is all about. But the study committee is stacked against local governments in the favor of business community, and they will be reviewing our business. And so do stay intact in with your local delegations and make sure they understand the importance of this revenue source. And they are addressing third-party vendors. We hope that's all they do.
They want to take away our ability to provide funds for police and fire and everything else, and we need to articulate those,
This is
that
a
displeasure.
critical fight
Have the
that we must-
citizens
Yes, sir.
express that to them, so.
And I'm available
Love
at
living in
any.
the legislative state. All right, let's keep on moving. Thank you, Melissa.
Thanks, Melissa.
Can't wait to see you without your boot.
It's gonna be fun.
Anything else? So,
Yes, sir. Ready to go
Mr.
into
Duval, you got something for us?
We ready to go?
I think so.
Yeah, this is a record.
Let's keep the record going.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we go into executive session for receipt of legal advice related to pending, threatened, or potential claim pursuant to code 30-4-782, opioid class action lawsuit, discussion of negotiation of proposed contractual arrangement pursuant to 30-4-782, stormwater easements, receipt of legal advice related to matters covered by attorney-client privilege pursuant to 30-4-782, Ordinance 2019-074, business and professional licenses and Joyner Road. Discussion of employment of employee pursuant to 30-4-70A1, business liaison, development corporations, and municipal court.
There goes the afternoon.
Is there a second? All right. The previous question, clerk, call the roll.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, what's your preference?